Hello and welcome. I have decided to make a start on a series that I have wanted to read for quite a long time, and it's one that a lot of people really love, and I thought it'd be really interesting to do a bit of a spoilery video on this, and because it is a series, make it a series of spoilery videos, which would just be my thoughts while I'm reading it, anything that I think about it, any possible predictions I have, my reactions, things like that. And I just thought that would potentially be interesting to do, and it's a little bit different to videos I've done before, so it's just something a little bit new. And the series it's the Farseer trilogy, I'll be starting with, and obviously this is Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book by Robin Hobb, but I'm hoping that I will be able to do the whole Realm of the Elderlings and just do a Realm of the Elderlings spoilery series and just go through all of the books, just talk about them and my thoughts, reactions and all of that. So this is the first one in the series, so I don't know tons about this. So from my understanding of this, there's Fitz, who is the main character, and he is the bastard son of a king in waiting, and he lives with his grandfather, but his grandfather decides to send him back to his father to live there, but his father, in his embarrassment, abdicates the throne and leaves, so Fitz kind of doesn't really have anywhere to go, anything to do. So I believe he then ends up being raised in the stables and then eventually being trained as an assassin. That is pretty much all that I know, and I don't want to know anymore at this moment, because although this is a series that is really popular, I haven't actually seen many spoilers on it, or if I have, I haven't even realised, so that is really great. Yes, I haven't actually started it yet, but what I have done is I have arranged some sticky notes. So I've got these sticky tabs, which are sort of the clear-ish sticky tabs that you can write in. Not sure whether I will actually use them, but I thought I'd have them in case I had some thoughts. And then I do have quite a lot of sticky tabs, but a lot of them weren't really suitable, so I've had to try and sort of match the sticky tabs. So we've got sort of like this yellow-esque colour to sort of represent the gold. We've got the blue, which isn't quite the right blue. I've got so many blue tab and none of them were quite the right colour, so I've just gone with a dark blue. We've got this very light brown, which is sort of matching, and then just the cream of the background. Now I don't know how many tabs I will need. I don't actually tab much, but I just thought if I'm doing a video where I will have to be talking about certain things, I thought it'd be good to have some tabs so that I can reference back. And yeah, I think I'm just going to play it by ear and see how I feel when I get into it. And that is really all that I have. I might also make some actual notes in like a notebook or something for anything that I really want to talk about. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into this. I really hope that you join me on my journey through the Realm of the Elderling. I have now read one chapter of Assassin's Apprentice, and so I am on page 18, and I won't do an update after every single chapter because that's a little bit ridiculous, but I just thought I would officially say that I have started the book. I have already put a couple of tabs in. I am not really doing anything super strict about it. So far I've just got the tabs for Fitz, just a little bit of information about him. I've got a tab for sort of the world, anything that mentions something that describes the world or anything in that situation. And then I also did a tab that was just some writing that I enjoyed. So as I said, I've only just read one chapter and I'm already loving the writing style. It already feels like so warm like a hug. That is so ridiculous, and I don't think that it's going to feel so nice and cozy the whole time, but so far just the way that it's written just feels comforting to me, which is a really positive sign. So pretty much all that's happened so far is it's in first person, and it's basically, you're sort of assuming that it is Fitz, but the main character is talking about how he wants to sort of write some history, and instead he ends up talking about his own history. So then it's when he is 6 years old, and his grandfather on his mother's side decides to take him to where the king in waiting is, and basically says, I don't want to look after this kid anymore. He's the bastard son of the king in waiting. You guys can deal with him. And that's it. So he ends up staying in the stables with Chivalry's sort of horse and some dogs and things like that. And he really enjoys that. He likes being around the animals. But there's just been a lot of discussion about what exactly they are supposed to do with this boy. And he actually hasn't he hasn't told anybody his name so far. They're just saying, they asked him his name and he just said boy. So from their understanding, he's never been given a name, which again is quite depressing. And they're discussing the fact that the king wants to take him with him to move somewhere else, and the queen does not want to do that. And so there's just a little bit of discussion on that. But there is just really quickly, I don't know why, but I just really liked this description. So it says, one of the memory I have of that time, but it is not sharp edged, rather it is warm and soft tinted, like a rich old tapestry seen in a dim room. I just, the way that, and then there was again like the way that it's just describing different places and just things like that. But yeah, not much has happened so far, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm hoping that I will get into it a little bit more and start coming up with some theories and some ideas and getting into the characters. I have made some progress on Assassin's Apprentice. I'm now on page 93, chapter 6, and I'm still really enjoying this. I have made some tabs and things like that, as they're not anything particularly profound or anything like that. It's mostly just little bits that I wanted to remember, or I think might come up, bits about Fitz, the wider world, the magic system, things like that. So obviously I checked in after I'd read the first chapter, so I've read a little bit more since then, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm finding I'm already getting quite attached to Fitz, and so obviously there was the dog Nosy, and I don't quite understand this whole magic system with him being able to share a mind with animal. Obviously he's very attached to this dog, and then the only thing is I'm not very good with names. So is it Birch? He obviously then gets rid of the dog, and I was almost crying at that, and that was the beginning. So that was difficult. And then it was obviously after that the king, so his grandfather on his dad's side, has come to him and said, right, you're going to be trained, you're going to live, we're going to move you out of the rooms above the stables with Burrich, however you say his name, and you're going to have a place to live, like your own room. And he's really struggling with that because he's never had a place of his own. He's feeling quite lonely. So that was really interesting. And then he gets taken in the middle of the night by, see again, I'm so bad with these names. Bear with. Chade? Is that, again, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. But obviously comes and he's like, essentially, I'm going to train you to be an assassin for the king. And he's doing really well with all of that and all of the assignments that he's being given, and learning to be stealthier, learning memory and all those kind of things. And then Chade says, I want you to essentially steal something from the king's room. And Fitz is like, well, no, I made a promise to the king. You know, we made a promise to each other. I'm not going to betray him. And Chade is like, well, either you do that or you leave. So he ends up leaving, and then he's just really upset about it. And I think there's a part where he was just like talking about how lonely he felt. He didn't want to eat. He didn't want to do anything. And Burrich is quite worried about him as well. And he's like, I don't understand what's going on, because nobody knows that he's being trained. I'm just going to see if I find it. There's like one bit that just really upset me. Yeah, I just think it's really good that he stood his ground and didn't do anything that he didn't think was right. And then it turns out the king does tell him afterwards that it was his idea and it was to sort of prove his loyalty. That was quite interesting. It's somewhere around here because I can see this. It's here. It's like, the agony was simply the loss of Chade from my life. I could not remember how I'd managed before when I had been so alone. To return to the drudgery of living day to day, going from task to task seemed impossible. I tried desperately to think of something to do, but there seemed no solution. I could go to Shrewd himself, show him my pin and be a mission and tell him my dilemma. But yeah, it's just like, he's just saying he just feels so alone and so upset. But what he's done is the right thing. He doesn't want to betray the king after he's made this bargain, this promise. And so now obviously Chade has come back to him and said, no, the king asked me to do it, and the king has admitted that he asked him to do it and that it won't be something that he has to do again. So I'm assuming he's now going to continue on with his training and getting into it. But just the writing style is just really, really good as well. Like, obviously it's quite slow. It is just essentially day to day, this is what he's doing, going through all those kind of things. But I actually really like that, and I'm finding it really comforting, and it's really endearing me to the character, which is, I think, kind of the point and what is really working. So I'm looking forward to getting more into it. I have made some more progress on Assassin's Apprentice. I am on page 126 and chapter 8. So the last time I updated, Fitz had just gone back to Chade because the king had mentioned that he was the one to ask Chade to test Fitz. And Chade was like, we won't do that again. And so he is now back learning and to become an apprentice, learning to become an assassin. And so it's quite difficult in this to know the exact timeline because it doesn't actually give you any. So we know that it starts when Fitz is 6, but it doesn't give you any indication of how much time has passed or how much time is passing, really. I have got to the part now where it has said that he is 13. So from that point, he then is with a scribe learning to write properly, and the scribe is telling him how good he is doing and offers for him to be an apprentice scribe, and says that if he does that, he can get out from under the shadow of his father Chivalry and he will be able to travel. And Fitz is actually considering this, and there is a really interesting sort of, I wouldn't even say quote, but there's just this passage that I really like, and it also shows Robin Hobb's writing, which I just really love the way that she writes. There's just something about it that is just so comforting. So after he says, scribing is a good trade and that they could do something, like together they could do something, it's Fitz says that he never considered the idea, and it's like, suddenly the roads leading away from Bookkeep gleamed in my mind, and the weary maps I had been forced to study became places I could go. It transfixed me. And it's just, yes, for this young boy who has never really fit in anywhere, and he's had to just stay in Bookkeep and not even able to go into town, the thought of being able to travel does sound like such an interesting and worthwhile thing for him to do. Now, he then speaks to Chade about this and asks his advice on whether it's something he should do. And Chade basically says, no, your father's shadow is probably a good place to be because it also protects you. And Fitz doesn't seem to really like this answer, but Chade goes on to say that if his father, because his father obviously never bothered with him, and so Fitz is also struggling with that. He then also finds out that his father has passed away, and he doesn't want to mourn him. He doesn't think that that is something worthwhile. Burrich has shaved his head for him because that is how they mourn when somebody has passed. And again, Fitz feels quite frustrated about this because he does say he says he never cared about me. He's like, he found out about me and he left a father he never cared about me. And that's true, but then Chade says to him, well, actually, it may have been better for you for your father to have not acknowledged you as his son or as his bastard, because that could potentially have put you in danger and put you on people's radar, essentially. And that's not something I thought of, but I'm still not sure if I like chivalry. But now it's quite difficult because he's dead, so I'm not sure if we'll learn more about him and the whole scenario, but I'm still not sure how I feel about him. But now Fitz has been tasked, like he is now going to accompany Verity, who is technically his uncle, so his father's brother, to Neat Bay to see Lord Kelvar. And it's like he's probably one of the first times he's going properly out, and he might have to do his first assassination potentially. So Chade has been talking to him about that. He's also been, when he was offered the scribe position, he was saying about how he's never allowed out anywhere. So he then ends up starting to run errands in town, and he again meets up with one of the people he was hanging out with when he was younger, and that is Molly. And I think that she is potentially going to be quite a significant character. She seems to be the only actual friend that he has in this whole place, because it doesn't seem like other people really particularly like him because of him being a bastard. But he has been going and seeing Molly and just talking with her. So I'm not sure if there is a love interest at all in this. I don't know if there's any romantic relationships in this. So I'm not sure if that will be the case, but I do think she is potentially somebody who will be recurring. I hope so, because they seem to be good friends. But it's quite difficult, actually. I don't have any theories at all on where this is going. I don't really, it's really difficult to actually explain what's happening overall, because we are mostly just following Fitz through his life. We are just experiencing life with Fitz. It's him doing mostly just his day-to-day things, the chores and the schooling and things like that. But that's not a bad thing at all. I'm finding it's just nice to sit and read it, and the writing style is so good that I'm not bored. I'm not bored. I'm not wishing that things would pick up, but currently there's no major conflict, there's no major sort of issues. It's just about this boy that doesn't really have anybody other than the people who are supposed to, the two adults that he is being taught things from, and some animal companions every so often, but even those aren't really there all that much. He's been discouraged from that. There's not been much more information about this supposed magic either. Well, yeah, of him being able to share minds with animals. I don't fully understand how that works. That nothing else in this world is indicated as magic. Like there's nothing else they've seen that is a type of magic, so I'm not sure how much of that is normal and how it works. Obviously, what have I forgotten his name? Burrich didn't seem to be confused by it. He seemed to know that that is a thing that has happened, so I'm assuming that that is, if not normal or accepted, it is something that people know about, and it's just one of those that we're just going to have to see, and I will let you know once I've read a little bit more. Still making my way through Assassin's Apprentice. I'm now on page 174. I am partway through a chapter, but it's just because I'm about to head up to bed and read some more of it in bed. So I'm now on chapter 11, so a little bit more of the way through. So the last time I gave an update was when Fitz was 13 and he was heading off with technically his uncle to go with him. And yeah, so they go, he obviously is getting ready with Burrich, is sort of helping him prepare to travel, and he ends up going. There was like a comment that Fitz made when there was somebody asking, like came to him and was like, oh, look, so and so is looking for you, and he was saying how it's just disconcerting how many people knew him that he didn't know. And I imagine obviously being bastard son of a king, a lot of people know who he is, but he is not necessarily really involved. And yeah, it's just sort of a lot of political things are happening at the moment. Obviously they have gone to see, try and convince this other place to actually get their soldiers to protect and things like that. So it's quite interesting. And yeah, it's quite difficult because it is quite slow, but it's like, yeah, just even like bits of the story when it's just like, then the night and the open hillside spread out before us under the sailing moon and the stars scattered wide overhead, and the spirit of the challenge caught me up again. I don't know what it is about the writing that's just so good. I just really love it. But yeah, there has been a few like mentions. So firstly, it was absolutely hilarious that, what is the woman, so Fitz is obviously being told that he needs to look after this woman, Lady let me just check because I'm really bad at Lady Time. And then it turns out that that's Chade. It's his, like, he's using that as like his disguise, and he has come along, but everybody sort of keeps away from Lady Time because she is kind of smelly and rude. So that was quite funny to me, because at first I was unsure. I was like, has he just like pretending, because Fitz ends up going to her room and finding out that it is Chade. But I was like, oh, has he just sort of like pretending to be her in this moment? And it's like, no, that is his like disguise. So I just thought that was really funny. And there was a bit where he was helping the dog. So he was in the kitchen, and there was a lady there who he doesn't know who it is, and she has her dog, and the dog is choking, and he ends up helping the dog because obviously he has an affinity with these animals. And I was just getting really worried for the dog. I was like, oh God. But he luckily managed to get the chicken bone. Yeah, so it was, I'm just double checking, it was Lady Grace. And then he uses that he's helped with the dog to basically tell her that that they need to man the Watcher's Island tower with the best men and things like that. So it's like that's what Verity was trying to do, but he's saying that he's not as good as chivalry and they need chivalry. Obviously he's gone, so yeah, it was just interesting to see Fitz use that to his advantage. So I'm sure that that will come back. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm just under halfway through, and yeah, the last few days I haven't had much time to just sit and read a decent amount of it. So I'm hoping that I can just sit and get a good chunk of it read, because I am really enjoying it. I'm still, as I said, it's a weird one because it's slow and not a whole bunch is happening, but I feel like you're really getting immersed in the world, and I'm really understanding it feels like I'm there. So I'm loving that, and I do think this is going to be a series, and a whole sort of series of books that I'm going to really enjoy. So I'm looking forward to that, and honestly have no idea where it could possibly go. I was thinking, oh, I could come and give some theories. Haven't got a clue. Really have not got a clue where this could possibly be going, but I'm just along for the ride and really enjoying it. I'm making good progress with this, and I'm still really enjoying it. So I'm now on chapter 14, page 210. So Fitz is now having lessons with Lady Patience, who is his father's wife, and I've just got to a bit that's actually made me quite emotional. So that was interesting, because at the beginning of this, it's sort of implied that Lady Patience is the reason, and I think it is the reason that Chivalry abdicated, because he obviously cheated on his wife, but she was unable to carry a child, so there's obviously a struggle there, and then Chivalry cheated and created a bastard. So I can understand her resentment towards Fitz, but I think now their relationship is growing. So there was literally just a part where she was like, where is it? I've literally just read it here. So it's like she said, it's like abruptly she gets quite upset, and it's like, sometimes you are so like him. You should have been mine. It isn't fair. You should have been mine. She cries out the words so fiercely that I thought she would strike me. Instead, she leaped at me and caught me in a flying hug. And it's just like this poor woman who obviously wants to be a mother and is unable. And then there is this bastard son that comes along that I can understand her resenting, and now that Chivalry is dead, she doesn't have anyone, and he is so much like his father. So that was just quite emotional, and I'm not sure if how much that's going to have significance through the rest of the book, but I would be interested to see how their relationship grows. There is also the Fool, who I am saying now is going to be an important character, because there's been a few instances. So there was a weird point where the Fool came up to Fitz and was just talking nonsense to him, but then Fitz mentions to Chade that the Fool talks to him, and Chade thinks that is very strange and that is not normal. And there was also a mention of the king like paying for the Fool, so I'm unsure what's going on there, but it seems like there is some kind of connection between the two, so I'm intrigued to see what's going on there, because I think there was also mention of the Fool. Like, again, the magic system in this, I'm not exactly sure how it all works, but the magic in this is very strange, and I know that Fitz has some kind of affinity with animals and he can speak in their mind, and he also did that to a person. But then there's also this comment which I didn't mention yesterday, but then there's been further talks of the Fool, but I'd already highlighted this and completely forgot to mention it. But it says, the Fool was almost certainly born of the human race, though not entirely of human parentage. Stories that he was born of the other folk were almost certainly false, for his fingers and toes were completely free of webbing, and he has never shown the slightest fear of cats. And so there's clearly this other folk that's not really mentioned, and I quite like the whole intrigue of it and the drips that we get, because I'm imagining and I'm hoping that the further we get into the series, we'll be able to link back to that point when these things are explained a bit more. So that's been really interesting. And Fitz has got a puppy now from Lady Patience that he has named Smithy, and he is connecting with the puppy. And yeah, I think it's good for him to have this dog, because Fitz again is talking about how alone he feels and how he hasn't got anybody. Like, there is Burrich, which I genuinely think Burrich cares about him in his own way, but that it's not the same kind of relationship. You know, he doesn't really have many friends. He's got, I'm sure her name is Molly, but I bet I'm not going to be able to find it now. But there is one of the girls that he sees and plays with before, but she hasn't been seen in a while, so now I'm unsure if she's coming back into it. But yeah, there's obviously Burrich and there's Chade, but I don't feel like either of them are necessarily, they're not his friends. They are just people who are kind of caring for him because they have to. So it's quite interesting to see Lady Patience coming into this, and obviously Fitz mentioning how lonely he feels quite a lot. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. So I'm pretty sure I'm over halfway now. I'm on page 210. So yeah, I love it. I genuinely think this might be my first 5-star. Well, I guess technically I gave a manga 5-star, but this may be my first 5-star of the year. And I need to get the next one immediately, because I'm worried that I'm going to finish this and immediately need to consume everything. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this some more. I'm just here to say I'm scared. I am really worried for Smithy, because the bond between Fitz and Smithy seems to be getting stronger and stronger, and there's just been a bit that I've read and it's like, it refused to be ignored, it grew loud in my mind, a whining against my fate, a tiny voice of resistance that forbade that I should die, and that denied my failure. It was warmth and light too, and it grew stronger and stronger as I tried to find its source. I stopped, I lay still. It was inside me. The more I sought it, the stronger it grew. It loved me even if I wouldn't, didn't love myself. Loved me even if I hated it. It set its tiny teeth in my soul, embraced and held on so that I couldn't crawl any further. And when I tried, a howl of despair burst from it, searing me, forbidding me to break so sacred a trust. It was Smithy. And honestly, if something happens to this dog, I will riot, because everything that Fitz seems to get close to and seems to be attached to is somehow taken away from him. And if this happens with this dog, I don't actually know what I'm going to do. So that's it. I'm not giving a major update. I'm just really, really worried for Fitz and Smithy, because it feels like this bond is getting stronger and I don't want anything to happen to the doggy. I'm scared. I thought I would come and do an update because obviously on Assassin's Apprentice, which is what this spoilery vlog is about, because the last time I did an in-depth little thing was on chapter 14 and I've now got to chapter 17, so I'm on page 261, and I did briefly check in last night to say that I'm a bit concerned about Smithy the dog, and I hope that nothing happens to them. Fitz has been having his lessons with, why am I so bad at remembering everybody's bloody name? What's his blooming name? Galen. So Fitz has been having his lessons with Galen and trying to learn the sort of magic system, the magic that means he can read people's minds and get into them, the skill Yes, so he is currently having lessons with Galen on the skill to try and learn it. And Galen is not very nice when it comes to all of this. But also, Burrich has kind of advised him not to let Galen know that he has, I think they call it the wit, but basically the magic that he has that allows him to talk to animals and to do that kind of thing. So Fitz has obviously been battling with that and trying to allow Galen into his mind, but also not let him in on any of the secrets. And it does appear to me, now I'm not sure how true this is, but it does appear to me that potentially Galen has been actually manipulating Fitz's mind, because he's been having these lessons, and I think it's coming across that potentially Fitz is doing a lot better than Galen wants to admit, but he is making out that that is not the case and that he is doing badly. And he essentially beats Fitz so bad that he's obviously wanting to die. And that's when there was the bit about Smithy kind of joined into his mind and was talking to him. And after this, Burrich gets him, cleans him up, sort of bandages him up and gets him to rest and eat. But Fitz doesn't seem to be himself. Like, he is saying that he failed and that he's not very good and talking in this way, but he's been trying really hard, and I believe that he is doing really well. So I'm not sure whether it is just a confidence thing or whether Galen has messed with his mind a little bit. So that's been quite intriguing. And then Burrich beat him really bad at Galen, so that was great. And Fitz is now picking the lessons back up. It's like all the students now seem to hate him because they're all kind of pitted against each other, but they're all now doing really well, and Fitz doesn't seem to be progressing as much as they are. And I think part of that is to do with Galen. I think he's avoiding teaching him correctly, and also I think the students have kind of turned against him, so they're unwilling to connect with him, which is what is needed for this. So now there appears to be a situation where Galen is saying they all have to go off and make their way back. So it's kind of a bit of a test, but it has been mentioned, and I don't know, I am potential that this is going to come up again. But Galen asks him, he's like, are you his catamite that he lets you suck strength from him? So potentially that's another form of magic, or another form of that is potentially in this world, but it's not been explained, so I don't actually quite understand what it is. And because Fitz doesn't understand what it is either, we are learning as he is, so he doesn't understand what it is. But I just marked that down because I feel like that is going to come back up or be explained at a later date. But yeah, I just think, yeah, I'm quite intrigued. So I'm thinking potentially this task that they are being set, which is obviously Galen's way of trying to see who is worthy enough, is going to play a big part. So potentially this is something that is going to continue. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I have not got much left now. Realistically, I am on page 261 of nearly 400. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing and seeing what else is going to come up. I knew it, that something was going to happen to that dog. I said yesterday that I was scared for that dog, and the book is currently in a timeout. I am not reading it. I am on page 282. I've just got to chapter 18, and I'm not even sure that I registered the end of the previous chapter because I was full of tears. I was crying, and that is really rare for me. I actually can't remember the last time I cried at a book, but I was crying because of the dog. And then also poor Fitz. He's like, no, honestly, absolutely distraught. There's one bit where I knew something had happened. There was like there was a bit where it was just like about when like the tether between the two of them like snapped, and I was like, yeah, here it's like I all but saw a tail tip stir in the last effort at what. I all but saw a tail tip stir in the last effort at a wag. Then the thread snapped and the spark blinked out. I was alone. And then when he gets back to Burrich and he's like, yes, the dog, Smithy, they killed him. And Burrich is like, oh, you know, he didn't suffer, but Fitz knows that he did. And then now Burrich isn't talking to him because he knows that he had this connection with the dog, and he's really mad about it. So not only did Fitz get dropped off in this random place and nearly get killed by these weird people that are like not even like quite real. I don't fully understand what they are, but he got dropped off and had to fight them while knowing that his dog was dying and then dead. Gets back to try and help Burrich because he thinks that Burrich is dying, but then Burrich is like, I'm not interested in you anymore, and they don't speak. But then he goes to see Molly and she's with somebody. So Fitz has got nobody, and I'm heartbroken. And yes, I actually genuinely don't know how I'm going to finish this book. I've got, I think, just over 100 pages to go, and this is the first book, and I'm already crying. What am I going to do? So yes, I definitely think I will get this. Well, I'm planning to finish this tonight because I don't want to drag it out anymore. So yeah, I will update once I have further to say. I finished it, and although I didn't cry again, it was still quite emotional and really had me worried for a lot of it. The last sort of 100 pages were so good. I was absolutely hooked and did not want to put this down. I was correct in thinking that, oh, for God's sake, I'm so bad at remembering names, and also it's quite late and I'm so tired. Galen, that's taken me way too, yeah. So as I predicted, Galen had put some kind of mist or trick or something into Fitz's mind and made him believe that he didn't have the skill. So that was quite interesting, and I really liked the fact that Verity helped him to understand that and realise that no, he does have it and he is really good, and Galen just felt threatened by him. So Verity definitely grew on me through this. I was really kind of indifferent to him, but as the story went on, I sort of realised actually he's not as bad as he could have been. But yeah, I thought that was good, and Regal is trash. But yes, I had a feeling. I did have a feeling as it was happening, you know, as it was sort of unfolding, that Regal was not maybe as he seemed, but I think I was kind of figuring it out as Fitz was, so I wasn't exactly hot on it, but that was really interesting. I didn't expect that. Then Burrich nearly dying. I was like, I swear to God, if this man actually does die, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to cope, because everyone that Fitz loves seems to go and I can't cope with it. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how the rest of the series continues and what is going to happen next, because the sort of things that have happened at the end of this were so interesting, and I gave this a 5 stars, and people have said that the series and the books get better as they go along. So for this to already be a 5-star has got me very, very interested to see where the rest will take me. But I am imagining there will be plenty of tears to be shedding. So yes, it is quite late. I can't even remember if I've said that it is 12:30, which is quite a lot past my bedtime, so I'm not sure I'm making the whole lot of sense, but I have really enjoyed this video, like creating this video and talking through everything that's happening and trying to come up with some theories. So I will be doing this for each of the books in the series and throughout the whole realm of the Elderlings. So just to wrap this up, thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you would like to see more. Comment down below and tell me about when you first read this book and what sort of theories you were coming up with, who you really enjoyed from this series. And yep, just thank you so much for watching.